Everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. My name is Tom Moen. I'm a cloud architect with Microsoft. I'm going to be walking you through how to protect your ID, how to protect your data, how to protect everything with OneDrive for business. And this is a very important topic, but before we begin, it's very important to point out that not only will Office 365 protect your data, but we take protecting your data very seriously. So we protect your data in transit using transport layer security. So if somebody's out there sniffing the network, they can't sniff those packets and take them down. We protect your data at rest. We use not only our BitLocker technology, but we chunk your files and put them in various chunks. So a 100 meg file might be in 4 25 meg chunks. And each one of those chunks is actually protected with a different key from a different safe. So you'd have to have the key, you'd have to have access to the safe, you'd have to have the file. Anyway, just know that your content is physically protected, it's network protected. We have application security and content protection. And again, Microsoft employees, we use this thing called the customer lockbox. And with lockbox technology, we do not look at inspect your files or look at your files or analyze your files without your approval to do so. Also built into SharePoint, we've got virus scanning. We look at on upload and download for known threats. We look for suspicious activity. Of course, we've got great things like Exchange Online Protection and our advanced threat protection capabilities, which I'll show you in just a second, which monitor any suspicious activities that detect ransomware. And we do have recovery capabilities that I'll show you in just a second. There is version history for all your files, and I like this not only as protection of yourself and collaboration, but protection against, again, the malfeasance out there in the world. They've got password protection and expiring links and things, which I'll show you as well. And mass file deletion notification. So deleting all the files before or after you leave an organization or moving those files, what we want to do with those files that are in OneDrive after that. My advice to safeguarding your data, the advice here is to subscribe to Office 365, to create a strong password, to add security information to your Microsoft account. Use two-factor auth. If you're using two-factor auth today for your bank account or financial records or whatever you have out there, consider using multi-factor auth for protecting your files as well. Encrypt your important files, maybe even encrypt all your files, and backing up your PC to OneDrive is a very important thing. I'm going to show you how we make that very easy now with the most current version of OneDrive in the sync client for version overall. Just leverage Office 365 and you can leverage some capabilities. This is more of an administrative tip or trick to leverage the Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection. Now, what I've done here in this slide deck is give you all of the screenshots that I'm going to go through in just a couple of seconds here. And you can use this as a follow-up. Most of these screenshots do have notes, but you are going to see all of these feature function capabilities in about 22 minutes and 18 seconds, if I can get this properly done. But I did want to say that you do have this deck and it will be here for you to use and walk through. Or you can walk through these demos on your own. I was just delivering this presentation for a great customer in Alameda County, and several of their users followed along as I did things, which was kind of fun. In this case, I'm looking at Adelaide Vance, and again, as a manager, as an administrator of Office 365, I have this capability to look and see at Adelaide and how many files she's sharing, who she's sharing. I can turn on, turn off external sharing. So there's some beautiful administrative capabilities with our sync and share solution called OneDrive for Business here. And I can also do things like initiate a sign out to sign out all sessions. If Adelaide thinks she's being hacked and somebody has her credentials, I can initiate a sign out, and or I can even block her account and click block this user from signing in, which is nice capability here. I do have additional account details and information here. And if you want to be a superhero, you know, with your IT, ask them. If you're not already using multi-factor auth, ask them to enable multi-factor auth, and that will again keep you and your identity safe, secure, and protected, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And I can look at the devices and say, hey, these are the devices that Adelaide can access OneDrive from. So again, if somebody stole Adelaide Vance's credentials, their device might not be joined to our network, well, it wouldn't be joined to our network, so it would block from that activity. I also mentioned enabling multi-factor auth. I did want to just point out that there are some nice capabilities within Azure Active Directory, and you may not, everybody with Office 365 gets Azure Active Directory free or basic. There are two other SKUs here, Premium P1 Plan 1 and Premium P2 Plan 2. And there are some nice features within Azure Active Directory P2, a great reason for you to upgrade. And one of these is not only can I manage all my users and their activities from one nice neat place here. I see Adelaide, I get all of my nice Office 365 users in one nice neat place here, but I can look at their sign-ins and I can go back and see if anybody has had like a risky sign-in, for example. So I can say, hey, who are my risky users? And I can look at Megan here. Today I'm playing the role of Megan Bowen. My name is Tom Moen, again, a cloud architect with Microsoft, but I can see some risk history here, and there's an atypical travel scenario. So in this case, what I did with this user is I logged in from, I was in some city in California working with the customer, and then I created a virtual machine. I put that virtual machine in the Netherlands in Azure, so Microsoft Azure services, and then signed in from there. And this atypical travel came up because there's no possible way for me to travel from California to the Netherlands in under 2 minutes. And that's about how long it took me to create that VM and sign in as Megan. So from here, this is great that I get this warning and I get this alert if I'm sitting here staring at my screen, if that's my job, to 100% sit and stare at screens all day. But most people, most organizations don't have that job where somebody just sits and stares at a screen all day. And even in those organizations that do have those jobs, they really only see about 3 to 5% of the threats and the alerts out there. So we could use a policy and use some automation like conditional access. Conditional access is if you meet these conditions, you will gain access. Conditional access. Meet these conditions, gain some access. So the condition in this case, since nobody's staring at and looking at these things, I'm going to say if somebody has a medium or a high risk scenario, then what I am going to do is require multi-factor auth. So I'm going to block access unless they're using multi-factor auth, then I'm going to grant access. And it's just that easy for us to do and leverage the capabilities of conditional access here again to gain access or block access to these files. Now with that, I wanted to go into OneDrive, and this is my OneDrive here. I got to it just by going to OneDrive, and you can see all my files and all my capabilities here. I've got the version of this presentation here, and if I click on that, you'll see that it will open up this presentation, and I can walk on through this presentation just like I have so far. We've gone through conditional access. We're looking at OneDrive now. I'm going to show you how we can restore our files, etc. So that's all good. But what I did in the meantime is I opened this file as me, as Tom Moen here. I had to sign back in as Megan Bowen for this part of the demonstration. But now this protected file, I protected it with rights management from Microsoft. So this rights management file, like let's say I shared this with Megan Bowen. The nice thing is that I can rescind that access to Megan at any time I want to. So I can revoke access, I can take access away. I can set with a rights management services or Azure information protection. I can say, hey, make this file good for 5 days, but then block access to it. So I could do something like if I'm a city and I've got an RFP, I put the RFP out there. I make that RFP file only available for 90 days, and on day 91 it would expire. And maybe you put a link to the follow-up from that RFP, et cetera. So rights protection can be used for a wide variety of things. In this case, I just protected a file, but let's say that I've got this file out here, aging and adult services. I shared this with John, and John made some changes, and I didn't like those changes. Or maybe there was a nefarious character and somehow this file got hacked. I can come back and say, hey, John made these changes in version 7. I don't like those changes. I'm going to restore to this version, or maybe even I want to restore this file way back on September 24th before all of this badness happened or something happened. I can restore that file. Now version 5 will be version 8. And I could actually come back in here and delete this version to get rid of it entirely. If for some reason it got in, or again, if John, that knucklehead, made some changes that I didn't like and I didn't want to have to go through the document and one by one make all these different changes from version 6 to 7, I can just restore version 5 like I did here and de-collaborate. So it's one thing to collaborate. This is my coined phrase, de-collaborate. I've de-collaborated with John. The other thing that's nice here is I can have what are called labels, and labels are rights protection in the protection phase of this file. But I do have some capabilities here that it saw the term aging and adult and with capital A's, and I'll show you how we did this in just a second, and applied this label for aging and adult services. It's going to protect. Again, labels do 3 things. They preserve, they protect, or they purge content. So I can say, hey, after 90 days, we want this deleted, or in this case, I'm retaining it for 7 years. And then at the end of 7 years, I'm going to delete that. I'm also encrypting this file. And a huge benefit of encryption is it does protect us from data loss, data leakage. So if somebody moved this file out to a thumb drive, they lose that thumb drive. People won't gain access to that file because they don't have the rights, the privilege, the capability, the access to this file. So that's what these labels do for us. They preserve, they protect, and they purge. So in some case, maybe that RFP on day 91, I want it purged from the SharePoint document library. I can set a purge policy so that file is deleted on day 91 as well. The other thing that we get here is an ability that, let's say that our whole OneDrive is corrupt. In the case of our whole OneDrive, I did want to point out too, these labels that I was just showing you, they can be manually applied, and because I have an ability to change this label, I could change it to confidential or change it back. And again, so from a 5-year to a 7-year retention there, and encryption enabled. The other thing is if my whole entire OneDrive gets whacked and some nefarious character, I can come out and say, hey, I want to restore my OneDrive, and I don't remember exactly when. I know maybe 4 days ago, so I can say, hey, I want to restore all my files, and you'll see the files that are impacted 4 days ago and the different changes that were made. But I can come back here and restore my OneDrive to a point in time 2 days ago, weeks ago, when before this bad activity happened. Finally, additionally, in OneDrive, there are some capabilities to protect OneDrive just as you protect any document library, and we can have a label and we can automatically apply a label to a document library. I was pretty sure I clicked on that. There it goes. I am using Chrome today just to show that any old browser, you don't have to be using the great Internet Explorer or Edge. Any old browser will work with this, but here I can say, hey, maybe this is a document library, not OneDrive, but a document library in SharePoint that is for aging and adult services where we want to retain and protect all that content. I can apply that label to preserve, protect, or purge that content, and have that label applied to existing content in that document library. The other nice library setting capability that you have here is an ability to apply rights management or to apply permissions for a document library. You can set permissions, but we also can restrict permissions on a particular group, or we can say, hey, don't allow files that aren't uploaded, or maybe I've got something that's confidential today, but I know on 12/29/2019, don't know why I picked that date for some reason. It's actually my birthday. No gifts, no cards, but thank you. I didn't do anything really on that day anyway. 12/29/2019. I can stop restricting access to this library. If I do want people to print, they're declined by default, or I don't want them to download documents, I can do that. I can put groups in here, and then I can say, hey, people must verify their identity every 90 days like we do at Microsoft, or every 1 day, like I've only seen 2 customers do. But the default here is that you must VPN in or renew your credentials every 30 days. So these are ways that you could protect OneDrive. Now you're probably going, gosh, this OneDrive thing is really pretty super awesome. How do I get my files up to OneDrive? So the beautiful thing about this is that I do have these capabilities here, and one of the newest, most recent capabilities is a backup. So I can actually back up my desktop, my documents, and my pictures to OneDrive automatically. So this is going to take the content from my desktop and move it, desktop or laptop, whatever, and move it to the cloud. And that's the best way to protect your data, is by saying, hey, we're going to move this off network and we're going to move it off machine, and we're going to put it in a place that's 99, guaranteed to be 99.9% available. We're actually exceeding 99.98% availability, but you can move these files to OneDrive. Now this does two things. A couple of months ago, I was standing at the podium getting ready to present, and a person came up and was talking to me and knocked my machine off the podium. He was flailing his arms around and knocked my machine off the podium. My machine was destroyed. It broke into 1 million pieces. Well, not 1 million pieces, but certainly more than 3 pieces. And, you know, I had presentations all that day, all that week. I was out of town. I went to the Microsoft store. I got a demo machine. I took that demo machine, connected it to OneDrive, instantly synced all my files, and there were all my changes as of just minutes ago and days ago, but all of them were right there on my desktop. I had my meetings, I had my presentations, I had my content. I was all set to go, right as rain, in just a couple of minutes. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. The other side of this equation, instead of losing my laptop, is again having those files in the cloud. I just was forced into a presentation where I had to present from their machine in a auditorium, and in this case it was a similar presentation to this. I just logged in as in this case as Megan Bowen, and I didn't know how safe or secure their network was, but I bopped into their presentation, opened this presentation up. It wasn't rights protected, and then from even in this presentation was able to go into slide presentation mode and present this presentation or that presentation right from the very machine that I was on in this big auditorium. So very cool feature function. Of course, you'd log in as yourself. I logged in as Megan Bowen because then I did toss in a couple of additional demos. It's just one of those things that I do. So again, we've covered protecting your identity, multi-factor auth, conditional access, restoring files, and restoring. Oh, I didn't cover really the recycle bin, but also know that this is another great feature. Like if the event that you are working and maybe you're multitasking like so many of us do, and I come out here and I've got this very important FAA file and I want to download that. So I'm going to download this file to my desktop, and I'm going to, oh, what? Wait, that said deleted? What? Oh. So the beautiful thing is there's a soft delete, and I've got a recycle bin here, so I can restore that file. But what if I'm still multitasking and really multitasking stupefied, and I hit delete again? There's a hard delete, so an admin administrator in your Office 365 can restore these files. So they're very safe, secure, and protected. I'm going to go ahead and restore that file, and you'll see it will show up in my files. FAA incident report right there. So that's just how quick and easy I can restore those files. I already talked about labeling. We already talked about the restoring. I already showed you that. Yeah, and this is another great capability that there are a couple of things here that an admin can do. Now, you as an end user can't do this, but if you're an administrator, one of my favorite things to do is show how difficult it is to enable advanced threat protection, Office 365 advanced threat protection for SharePoint files, OneDrive, and Teams. The hardest move in computing, the single click. By clicking this, and I have turned on advanced threat protection for SharePoint, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams, because Microsoft Teams uses SharePoint to store files and OneDrive to share files. And speaking of sharing files, if I come out here and I wanted to share this FAA incident file, I can come out and say share, and know that I have some settings here. Anybody with the link, people in Contoso, these very specific people, I don't want them to edit it. I want them to read only, and I don't want them to download this file. I just want them to edit online when they're on our safe, secure network. So these are the capabilities that I have with sharing my file, far better than any other sync and share solution out there in the world. You're more protected, you're more safe, you're more secure. We've got these restore capabilities. We've got encryption capabilities to preserve and protect those files. And know that you do have Azure information protection. Again, if you've moved up from the rights management services in Office 365 to Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, you'll hear that called as EMS. So Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, we can very simply add a label here. So I can turn this label on and I'll call this, OneDrive Protection. And I can pick a color here, and this just always cracks me up that some poor person worked very hard through high school and college to get a job at Microsoft, and his or her job was to create a hex triplet for a custom color. You can pick any one of these colors that an icon will show up from your desktop, or you can create, if you know a triplet hex code for red RGB values, you can do that as well. Anyway, I can protect this file or decrypt file. I can bring my own keys or hold my own keys. That's a topic for another day, and I think we've got a whole session on one of these. But again, I can say, hey, I want it to have a header. This is the header. This is the font size. I want it to have a watermark, and this is the watermark and the font size and the color, etc. So you can do all of these things to protect the file. And then, one of the other really cool things is I can add a condition. So instead of me manually applying something to that, I can use a information type like a personally identifiable information, but I can use aging and adult. And just like my file, if I wanted to say, hey, automatically, anytime you say the word aging and adults, aging and adult services, anytime I see these words, I'm going to match that as a regular expression, and I want to get the case sensitivity. And now I'm going to apply that automatically. Again, this is a higher level of licensing, but I did want to point that out to you, that you do have this capability to leverage feature function capabilities a little bit further with Office 365. Now, let's see, in OneDrive, just want to make sure across my presentation that I'm not missing anything. Auditing capability, yes, there's some great auditing capability in here, and I do have the ability to audit my files. So back at the capabilities here within search, I have an audit log, and you will see that I can say, hey, show me files that were checked out, that were accessed, that were deleted, or maybe I want to say, hey, did somebody share added permissions to a file or a denied access request, etc. I can audit all of these things as well. So again, my files are safe, secure, protected, and audited. And I think that will just help you to have a wonderfully great day. So consider Office 365 and moving your files to OneDrive. I did cover the backup. I do believe I did show the settings. So you do have an ability to just come into backup and back up your files from your desktop right to OneDrive, again, where they're going to be off network, safe, secure, and protected. So take advantage of all these benefits by enabling your OneDrive, and you'll be all safe, secure, and protected. I want to thank you for your time and attention today. It's been great having this time with you. Look for our other sessions in the not too distant future. Bye for now.